Okay, let's do this. Thank you for coming out again. This is round 2. Over a year later.
Has it been over a year?
It's been over a year. We did the first interview was July last year.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Just over a year.
Yeah, I pretty much, you said there was like a part 2 about your life that you wanted to talk
Yes.
about. I'm down if you want just to jump straight into that.
Totally.
Unless you want some like warm up chill questions while
I
like
love
under the
questions.
spotlight, you know.
I love questions.
Okay.
So, yeah.
What do
Lots
you
changed in a year, so.
You said a lot's changed in a year. Name one thing. The biggest thing.
The biggest thing is I got out of a pretty gnarly relationship, and I expanded my business to Nevada. So, yeah, and I have a full crew, and I have a lead organizer, and my business has just gone to another level, and yeah, it's just a whole new thing now.
Are you working and like, are you ever asleep at night getting paid?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. It's really, it just continues to come in. And that's what I was working for, is to be able to make money while I sleep. So.
That's a lot of people's dreams, to make
Yeah.
money while you're asleep.
Yeah, like I hear, because I can tell, like I have different ways that people pay me, but I can hear when the money comes in and it hits my bank account, or it comes in through Venmo, or it comes in through this. It's just, I don't know. So yeah, it's a work in progress. I have learned that the more money you make, the faster it goes out. And I've learned that it's like, here in California, it can be really, really hard to be a small business and reach that expansion, because it gets harder. I don't know. I've been learning a lot, but that's the biggest thing. And I feel like I don't want to say financially comfortable, but I'm way more comfortable than I've ever been. And yeah, so it's nice.
Are you, like you said, you expanded into Nevada. You have like a team out in Nevada doing the thing you're doing here?
No. So right now I am out there every other week.
Nevada?
Really? Yeah, in Henderson, in Las Vegas. Yeah. So I'm actually going to be getting a business vehicle out there so I can just fly. So what I'm doing right now is I have like 4 clients and I'm working on their homes. And I am going to be doing interviews hopefully here soon, once I get a little bit more established out there, to take on a lead organizer. I was not expecting to expand so quickly out there. And the demand for me out there is, I don't want to say much more than here because we are in high demand here, but there's more opportunity to expand quicker out there. So it's just fine. Now I'm just trying to figure out how to train someone out there, but I'm also here and like giving them consistent work. And it's like these people go into, like, we go into people's homes, and it can be a very like emotional job. And so I have to train them how to be with the client, you know. So I'm just trying to work that out. It's a lot more work than I thought, and it just kind of it wasn't even like, the work just kind of pulled me over there, I guess. I don't know.
For $1 million right now, would you sell your business? Is it worth more than that?
Well, you know what? I've totally thought about that.
Are you serious? Selling it?
No, like I've thought about, like I've driven and just been like super stressed and been like, oh, I would sell my business because I can like do it anywhere, you know? And I feel like I would take that money and put it into something. I'm really good at generating money and streams of revenue. So I don't know. Would I sell it? It depends on the day. We'll just say that. Sometimes it is crazy busy, and I feel like I want to go into a corner and cry and just be like, give me a 9 to 5. And then other days I'm just like, I've been on a good roll lately, and I'm like, I love my life. I'm so happy. I love my crew. I finally have people that we have this meeting of the minds, and we all share the same vision, which has been, probably the key factor in why I'm able to expand. So yeah, would I sell it for $1 million? Possibly.
Thing is, it's crazy because $1 million now these days can't even get you anything. Nothing. It can buy a house, but
yeah,
that's it. That's it. That's all it went to was a house.
That's another thing that I've learned is what I used to see as a lot of money, because I come from these two, I don't want to say two, but kind of two extremes of life. I was dirt poor, living on a compound for a while, got out of that, and then was just this traumatized child that ended up later in drugs and all this stuff. And so I had no money. I didn't know what I always had this lack mindset, and I didn't know what a lot of money looked like. And then I used to think that $1,000 was a big deal, and now 20 grand, I'm if I were to be at just 20 grand, I would probably feel like I was going under, just in my, because it goes like that, it is nothing, it's just nothing nowadays.
How many employees do you have?
Right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, where am I? Yeah, Rena, 4. Yep, working on more. We're hiring. We need help if you like to organize. Yeah.
Okay. It's crazy, you, I guess you kind of made a brand for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's, who would have thought people would be hiring you guys and paying you guys and giving you guys your money to come into their homes, organize, reestablish stuff. You know what I mean?
Totally. And especially since COVID, people are stuck in their homes and everything's slowed down, and what a time to look at your surroundings and see what your life manifested into your physical space. And it has broken relationships, and it's also motivated people to be I'm not living like this anymore. I don't know. I have a whole opinion on that, but yeah, people pay us to come in and help because they don't know where to get started,
You said last time we did an interview, you were saying there was a second piece of your life. Or honestly, before I even asked this question, I remember after I interviewed you, because I went straight to work after the interview.
Yeah.
And I saw your mom and other people and stuff at work.
Mm-hmm.
And I after interviewing your mom and then interviewing you and stuff, I remember the first thing I said to your mom when I came to work that day, I was I want to bring down the state of Utah and the whole thing with separation of church and religion and power and all that stuff.
I can get into that
And
one.
I still completely feel like that, but going back into that environment, you said there was a second part of this podcast that was kind of almost needed to be said, because you said that you came over a lot of obstacles, including you said you cleaned up your life.
Yes, I did.
Tell us about that.
Oh, okay.
And then I'll just start asking questions off a broader picture.
So I was a member of the Fundamentalist Church. I think you talked to my mom about that, the polygamous church. Fundamentalists, Latter-day Saints. That's where they believe in polygamy, marriage, and all that. And anyway, I was in that for a while till I was maybe 11 or 12. It's really creepy. They started trying to find me a husband and stuff like that. Trying to match me with this guy. I don't know. This is just little pieces that I remember, and there was a lot there. So my parents eventually got out, and then we were like part of the mainstream Mormon religion that you see now. They're monogamous and yeah, and it's like all happy family and family values and yada yada yada. And there's a lot of amazing people in the church. I'm not knocking the people per se, but yeah, so growing up in that religion, I skip forward. We eventually left that religion because there was a lot of judgment, and it was built on shame, and they shamed my mom a lot for having her first child at 14 and having 7 kids by the time she's 27, and having one child out of wedlock, and there was just a lot of garbage that came out of it, and we didn't really fit in because we came from the polygamous church, and it was just kind of a disaster. So they left, and they left religion altogether. And then I met a man like 8 years older than me, and when I first met him, he had like gotten off of a mission a couple years prior, I think years prior, and he actually got kicked off of his mission because he was like smoking weed with the Chileans and stuff like that, and just having a good time. And they were like, you can't do that, you're done. Anyway, so when I met him, the first night, actually, he smoked weed with my parents, and so I just was under the impression that he was not active in the church. I was completely out of the church, and we started a relationship, and we were in a relationship for 3 years, and one day one of his best friends got back from, maybe it was a mission, something had to do with the church, and his family, who's like super high up in the church, or like deep roots in the church, I should say, old school Mormons, and they were like, help, I'm not going to say his name, we should come up with like a code name or something, help so-and-so, whatever, come back to the church. He's with some chick, some young girl because I was only 17, but he's with some young girl that isn't part of the church, and he needs to be married in the temple because he had actually asked me to marry him. And so anyway, we were like engaged, and then long story short, he broke it off with me and said that he will only be with me if I join the church again, and stop having sex with him for 2 years, which, please, stop having sex for 2 years and, like, go talk to the bishop and join the singles ward or whatever the fuck. Anyway, so long story short, from that, I said that I would. Didn't last long at all. We slept together, then we got pregnant. And yeah, we got pregnant, and we moved back in together. I caught him cheating on me, and I left and had my own place, rented a room, was pregnant, working, and he was off doing his thing and not really involved much. And then as time was getting closer, I had the baby, and so it was just kind of hard because he stopped going to church again. We were together, and he was like, I really want you to marry me, but I want our baby to be baptized or be, a member of the church. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be in the church, and I don't want to baptize her, and I don't want to do this and this. And so I broke up with him, and how do I say this? So I had the baby. Okay, so I had the baby, my daughter, and we, as she was not very old, that's when he asked me to marry him again, and I said no. And like a few weeks after I had her, I went to the movie with my sister, came back, and she was like laying over his arms, and he was passed out. He had a whole bunch of beers, and anyway, I didn't know at this time that he was doing drugs, because I didn't know anything about drugs at the time. I was still like a really good girl. And so I kicked him out, and he went and lived with his parents, and I started dating this other guy like months later. And he didn't like that because he had tattoos. And I was at work one day, and I called to check on my daughter at the babysitter, and she had been like taken by the police, and I couldn't figure out where she was. And this thus started this long corrupt custody battle around religion. And there was a lot, my attorney was LDS, his attorney was LDS, everyone was talking to each other behind my back. Like, it was systematically set up to keep my daughter in the Mormon religion and push me out of her life. And it was really, really hard. And no matter what I did, because I was like not a drug addict, I was not doing anything that I shouldn't have been doing. I was working 2 jobs, and so that's what happened. And it led me, eventually I got to a point where like paperwork was going missing in my on my side of things. There's a lot that goes on with custody, but this was so much more. And I kept asking for him to be drug tested because I knew that he was smoking weed. I didn't know that he was doing all this. Now that I know what I know, he was doing a lot more than that. But I was like, get him drug tested. Like, I'll take a test. We'll all take tests. Like, but I want hair follicle, and my papers were the ones that like went missing, and like hit. It was just a whole thing. He like shaved his head, and everybody. It just was a disaster. So I wish that I could go into more detail about it, but it's so intricate, and there's so many layers to the deception and the inner workings of the courts in Utah. Even though it's not legal to do what they did, they still do it because it's almost like they're their own government. You know what I'm saying? So they did everything they could to keep my daughter out of my life, and I fought tooth and nail, and finally I just hit a point in life where I was weak, and at that point my spirit had really dimmed down. So I started attracting people into my life that were not the greatest. I'm a firm believer in like you attract, you've heard like where you're vibrating at, like that vibrational frequency you put out, you kind of attract that. So I was in a pretty low place after everything. It changed my life. It froze my heart over. It was the worst time of my life. There's really no words for it. So I ended up attracting this guy into my life, and he saw me go through this custody battle, and he saw that he's like, I don't even know what to say, but I know something that will take your pain away. And he told me about meth, and I'd heard of meth. Everybody knows what meth is when you go to school, but I didn't know anything about it. And I was like, I'll do anything at this point, because I was like ready to die. Like, I gave 0 fucks. I was like gonna commit suicide. I didn't care. I was just done. And so I started using drugs, and the first drug that I ever did was meth, and it was with a needle. So I went straight to using drugs intravenously, and really happy that I did. I mean, I'm not happy, but I'm thankful. In hindsight, I'm thankful that I did, because I would not be here today if I didn't, because it did sublimate the pain, I guess you can say. But it started this whole nother life of crime. I started a pattern of abusive relationships. I gotten into some not good things. I've been to jail in like 8 different counties. I had to be like the perfect criminal, you know, and like go all the way. And I got into all kinds of drugs, a lot of just not good stuff. But I always stayed like very kind, you know, as a very kind person. I never wanted to harm anyone, but I just linked up with people for acceptance, I think, you know. And in Utah, they, at that time, it was not as diverse as it is now. So there was a lot of like white supremacy happening, and I got pulled into that, even though it wasn't my core belief of any kind. But it like in that life, you kind of get pulled into the people that you feel protected by, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense. And so I was around some really, really shitty white supremacists, and they were horrible to each other, extremely abusive to me, and it just started this whole thing that moved from Utah to Nevada. And I ended up getting like fraud charges, and I got into a high-speed chase in Nevada, and that was terrifying. I was actually sleeping in the back, and it was in a stolen Lexus that we had stole in Salt Lake City and drove it to Nevada. I got into a high-speed chase in Beatty, Nevada, I think it was, and these 2 guys were driving, and I woke up, and there was just so many cops behind us. It was just terrifying. So scary. So we ended up going to jail, and I found out I had a warrant, and that's how I ended up on probation in Nevada and started that life in Nevada, where it was even more like crazy. I don't know. There's just layers upon layers of what I experienced. I experienced a lot of things that you would not even be able to imagine, I guess. And I don't know if maybe we could do a podcast one day on what those, but there's just so many, you know. So yeah, I ended up in Winnemucca, Nevada after I got out of jail in Elko County. It's so confusing to me because there was so many little like stops, like there's a lot of transfers happening to different counties because that's just how it is. If you get stuck in like a tiny little county in a holding cell, you're there for a month, and then you get transferred to this county to go serve your time, but then you get transferred to the other county. I don't know. It's just crazy. But so I ended up in Winnemucca, Nevada, and was doing probation there. I was with during the high-speed chase, I had a boyfriend, and he was waiting for me when I got out, and he was extremely abusive as well, and I spent that time in Winnemucca with him, and he ended up getting back on drugs, and then I kind of got back on drugs for a minute. I kept like trying to stay clean, but like my environment and the people that I was around, it was really hard. And then I sent him to prison for 7 years for beating me really, really badly. And I got put on, so at that time I was on probation for the fraud, and my probation officer, so I sent my ex got in trouble. I called the police on him. Anyway, then I had bailed him out, and my probation officer found out that I bailed him out, so she, for my own protection, violated me on my probation and had the cops come to my work while I was serving food and in front of everyone, like, arrest me. It was fucking so embarrassing. And I was like, what did I do? And so she arrested me and took me to jail, and I found out that she did it because she's like, gonna kill you, and I'm not gonna, because people knew him around there, and he was super dangerous, and she's like, I'm not gonna let that happen to you. I'm sorry, I'm violating you, even though there was no reason for her to violate me. She did that, and kind of happy she did. So anyway, so I spent about, I don't know, like 6 months or something like that in county jail. Got out on good time for my sister Shay's wedding, and came here to California, went to the wedding, went back to Nevada, and my ex ended up going to prison because, he had to go through all the court stuff. And then I met another guy, and he like kind of picked me up and helped me, and sorry, I'm just like dragging on.
Oh, no, you're kicking. Keep doing your thing.
And he tried to help me, and I was always working and like doing some, trying to do something with my life, trying to like get out of this shithole. Like, I just didn't want to do it, but I just had no contact with my family, really. I just didn't have any tools to free myself from where I was at, and I was just so numb inside and broken. I had like no self-esteem whatsoever, and so I just was going where life took me, I guess. And anyway, one day, after being sober after not being on drugs, I should say, I was still like, having drinks and stuff, but after not being on drugs and having like meth in my veins, which I'd gone quite a while without it. It's not like I was on it all the time, but after a while you start seeing your life and you start feeling things again, and it just got really, really hard because my daughter's father's family was horrible to me. Like, they just didn't want me in her life because I wasn't Mormon, and they thought that I was this fuck up, even though I was an amazing mom. Like, I wasn't a fuck up when they took her, but since I was not Mormon, I was automatically a fuck up. Or since I had left the church, my family had left the church. They tried to like erase me from her life. They like took all of our photos together and like just pretty much erased me. But I kept fighting to try to be in her life, and little did I know, her dad was like on drugs this whole time, and they were like keeping it hush hush, and I found that out years later when I was here in California. But so anyway, I kind of moving around a little bit, but when I was sober, or when I was clean, started to feel things again, and I got super depressed, like horrible suicidal ideation. It was just coming back again, it was almost like the drugs had kind of like numbed that, I guess, and then your brain starts to try to connect the wires again and balance out, and things start to make sense, and you're forced to, it's almost like taking a blanket off your head after like you're in a storm or something and you just see the wreckage. And so my friend that I was with, that was trying to help me, he had gone to work, and I had planned out my suicide. And he had gone to work. He was working at the underground mines, so I knew that he was going to be gone for like a week. So he left, and I like waited for a bit to make sure that he was gone, and I like put music on and filled the bathtub, took a couple shots, and I waited for that to kick in, I guess, and I just got in the bathtub and I did a really gnarly number on my wrist right here, and he had forgotten something, I guess. And so when he came in, I don't even really remember. I was just super out of it at that point, but he came in and found me, which I was like not happy at that time because I really thought that this was going to be like it. But he came in and was like, what the fuck? And I guess got me to the hospital. It's like super blurry. and went there. They stapled me up and then sent me to the mental hospital. So I was transported to the psychiatric unit in Reno, and I spent a while there. I can't remember, and that's where I met my friend Luke, who had also tried to commit suicide, and he was part of the Mormon Church as well. And we bonded on the trauma around the Mormon Church and the fact that his dad was just horrible to him. Like, he had been sexually abused by leaders of the church, and his dad like wouldn't let him talk about it, and that's how he got into drugs. And it just, so we bonded on that, and we became friends. And then I went back home, and he was like my only like friend that I've had in so long that I connected with, you know. And we like trauma bonded, you know. Looking back, it was that trauma bond, and we understood each other because we were both LDS, and we had both experienced horrible sexual abuse and physical abuse. But his parents were still LDS and just wouldn't be accepting and understanding of him, so he was the outcast. So I got out, went back to Winnemucca, and stayed there for a few weeks, and was like, I'm done being here, and I made my way to Reno. And I had been clean for a while, you know, before this, and made my way to Reno and met up with Luke, and he introduced me to crack. Like, it didn't take long. So I was back into doing drugs. I didn't do a lot of crack, but I ended up eventually in meth again. And that's actually where I had been like clean for, I would say, for meth for maybe a year, maybe. And then it just, I don't know, started all over again. Only it was in a bigger city, and there's a lot more going on in the city than there is in a tiny little mining town. And that's where I experienced like more homelessness. I ended up pimping him out, but by his request. Like, there was so much going on there. Like, he like secretly was gay, but like didn't want to express it. So I was like, we need money. I want you to pimp me out. And I'm like, this is so bizarre, you know. And anyway, it got into this whole thing of pimping him out, and then meeting other women and getting into sex work. But doing like the pimping, I guess you can say.
You were the pimp master?
I don't want to call it like the pimp master, but I don't know. It was really scary. So that's where I got into like meeting, like getting to know the ghetto, and getting involved with, I don't want to say like getting involved with the black community, but understanding them more, because like you come from Utah and then you go here, and then me being in with these white supremacist fucking assholes that you never embodied that, by the way. I never like took that on and made that my belief system. But anyway, my life led me to this new place, I guess, and I made a lot of friends that were escorts, and they brought me around their pimps, and that was fucking terrifying, because I just didn't know what was going to happen there, and it just led me down this like crazy road of all these crazy experiences. Like, I've been held up at gunpoint multiple times. I have been beaten with the butt of a gun a couple times. There was this one time that I was dealing ecstasy with this guy, and I stupidly had him come to my house because I thought, like, this is how, like, naive I was in many ways in this, is I've always been very friendly and welcoming and, like, trusting of everybody. So I'm like, oh, like, this is my business partner, you know, we're selling ecstasy together and he's my friend, you know, and and so I was like, come to my house. And so he brought his big old friend and they both sat down and they were pimps. And I told him, I'm like, I'm just letting you know, like, I'm not doing that ever. So don't ask me. And so he, like, came over and him and his big old friend sat on my couch. And this was at my boyfriend at the time's house, who was never on drugs, like, not any of that. But he was gone, and this was my shady little life that I was living. And I was actually clean at the time. So anyway, they came and they, like, sat down on my couch and started joking about me working for them. And I'm like, I told you, like, I'm never going to do that, you know? And then, like, their faces just went all serious, and they made a comment like, well, if we wrapped you up and put you in our trunk, you would. And then the energy just went, like, cold, and I just felt my stomach drop, but I, like, kept my cool. And I was like, haha, making a joke. And then I, like, go into the other room and I pull my boyfriend's gun out and I, like, hold it up, and it got jammed. I remember that. And
you tried pulling the trigger?
No.
Okay.
I pulled it back. So I don't know anything about guns.
Mm-hmm.
I am not, guns scare me. Even though I've been held up at gunpoint many times, like, I would be numb if a gun was pointed at my face, but, like, for me, I feel like I have a healthy fear of guns. Like, when I'm holding one, I don't know. So at that time, I don't know how to work a gun. We'll just say that. I'm learning. But at that time, I was so scared, and I grabbed it, and I, like, pulled it back because I just thought that's what you do, and it got jammed. But I don't even think that they noticed. And so I was just like, get the fuck out of my house. And they're like, this crazy bitch. And it was very intense. I know I make it seem, like, very lighthearted, but it's very, like, going back through all of these, I've talked about it so much that it just seems very light. You know, it's not lighthearted, but I talk about it like it is. So it was really scary, and they left, and my sister, I think I was, like, standing there maybe for, like, 30 minutes after they left because I was just in shock, and I, like, had it pointing at the door because I didn't know what was going to happen. So my sister, I called her, and she knows everything about guns, so she helped me disarm it or whatever. And I, like, sat down on the bed. I was shaking, and I was very cool, calm, and collected. Like, that's one thing that I always was very calm, collected, and so I was able to do that, wipe it down, put it back, and yeah, then I totally stopped selling ecstasy, and that's when I chose to get completely out of that life. And at this time, I had a warrant out for my arrest, so I decided I was done. Wait, hold on, what was it? So, was it that time? Yeah, so I had a warrant out for my arrest, and I was on probation, and I had caught a charge, which led me to have a warrant out for my arrest. But it was in, what was it? It was in Reno. It's so confusing. Somewhere I caught a charge while I was on probation and doing drug court in Reno for robbery because I stole something from fucking Walmart. It was so stupid. But I was on probation, so I had, you know, when you're on probation, you commit a crime, you get sent to jail, and you have the possibility of serving time for, like, being sentenced for the new charge on top of the other charge that you were on probation for. So I had violated a couple times with, like, weed and stuff like that, and I didn't make it to court dates because it was in Winnemucca. So I had this warrant out. I knew that I was looking at prison time, which prevented me from turning myself in. But this whole situation had me being like, I am done. Like, I am done. my boyfriend at the time, who was like a saving grace. Like, I look at him like he was like an angel in disguise. He kind of got me cleaned up, and not that it was his job, but he was a normal person, I guess you can say. This was like, after Luke and all that. But anyway, he got me cleaned up. I turned myself in and did time in Reno. And that's where I got put in administrative segregation. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before. Like the SHU, it's lockdown pretty much. It's really terrible. I was only allowed out. So there's general population where, everyone has their cells, but at a certain time of day, it's an open pod and everyone can be with each other. But because of my background, and I had a violent record, I know, like, I was always at the wrong place at the wrong time, and I fought a lot. And anyway, so because of that and the people that I had known prior and my associations, they thought that I was way more dangerous than I actually was, because really I was just like this scared little like person that might have seemed hard, but I was just not. I don't know. And so they put me in AdSeg during that time. I was in there for 19 days in segregation, and I was only allowed out an hour every other day. I was not allowed any books besides the Bible. And what's really fucked up is I wasn't even allowed to write my family. The only people that I was allowed to write were other inmates. So they keep you like, they have a weird thing. So I had met other male inmates, because when you're in jail, you're like, oh, let's talk to the guys, let's pass notes, like you find a way to like get notes in a book and like maybe they'll see it. It's so fucked up. But they like want you to talk to other inmates because it like feeds the system, like, oh, well, if we keep them together and we do this and this, then in some way you're going to meet them on the outs and you're going to still stay in this disgusting cycle of addiction, and you're all just going to stay together, and you're there just to feed the system. It's really fucked up, and they don't tell you that kind of thing, but shame on you, Washoe County. I know. Yeah.
You're like, I know.
Shame. I can go for days on that one. Our prison systems are really, really broken, and nobody really talks about it.
Well, that's the thing. You don't want... So if you want to fix people, you don't send them to prison.
Nope, you don't.
Unless the aggressive people... Like, aggressive people that are physically harming people...
Yeah.
Get them the fuck out of here.
Totally.
Get them off the streets.
Yeah.
But, like, for, like,
and
8 out of 10 people
yeah.
that are in prison that just, like... got in a fight trying to defend somebody, or doing drugs, or even like stole a car, or like was selling crack because that's the only way they could fucking make money, or like
totally
like 8 out of 10 times like sending someone off to prison is only going to make matters worse, and then they have to live with that on the record for the rest of their life. You know what I mean? Like it's a broken system. It's for people like whoever designed it is a fucking idiot. They're very not understanding.
No,
and like that, like that's the thing. Like the people coming up right now, like the future, like you're part of the future. I'm part of this future. Everyone in the house right now, part of the future. Like we're in our 20s and 30s. Yeah. Like it's our job to fix it for the upcoming generations if we're all gonna survive on Earth together. Totally. Like that's not what you.
I totally agree.
I don't know.
Like the warrant that I had that I was running away from was for internal possession of THC. Because I gave a dirty UA. They charged me, oh God, this is a whole, okay, so I was not on probation. I was like free and clear. I had been off probation, and my friend got raided because he was growing weed, and he had kids. And he got raided, and they found one fucking seed, because they had heard that they were going to get raided. Like, they had connections. They found one seed, and took their kids away. He lost his job. She lost her job. And I felt terrible. It was my ex's sister's family, and they had let me stay with them for a while, even though I didn't like them. I felt really, really bad because I really liked the kids, and I was like an aunt to them. And so me, having just done 6 months in jail, I had, I'm a friendly person, and I made a lot of connections. And I knew this woman who, was a reoffender and was selling meth. And I'm not super proud of this, but just hear me out. I was going to snitch on her. I've never snitched, but I was going to snitch on her to get them out of jail so their kids could be with them again. So I was like, I'm going to be Captain Save-A-Ho. Like, this is just how I was. I'm like, I got to, help. Like, I'm always wanting to help, And the bitch that I was going to snitch out, she was a fucking cunt, dude. And she beat my friend up in jail, and I almost beat her up, and I almost I got arrested in jail. And anyway, I didn't get charged, but fuck her. So anyway, I was going to snitch, and they said they needed 2 bodies, 4 buys, or whatever. I was going to wear a whole friggin' wire, do the whole thing, right? So when I went in there and made this deal with NDA, they turn off the record, and they're like, oh, one thing, me just being naive as fuck. We just need a urine sample from you. And I'm like, what? They're like, have you smoked weed or anything? I was like, well, weeks ago, because I wasn't a big weed smoker, but it was still in my system. And they're like, oh, no, that's fine. We just need to know if you'd smoke, you're not in trouble. Or I'm like, okay. Because who the fuck gets in trouble when you're not even on probation or anything for just having it in your system? That's like somebody being like, hey, can we get a UA? And then they see weed in your system and they're like, felony. Could you ever imagine that? No. So I was like, okay, I'll give them a UA. So they knew, they totally fucked me over. So they got this UA, ran it, saw that I had marijuana in my system. Anyway, so we were getting ready to set it up, and I'm like, I'm going to go see my daughter before this because I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if I was going to get shot. I don't know. But I was ready to help and get the kids out, and let's do this. I'm going to be, a good person. So anyway, I go see my daughter, changed everything. I'm like, I'm not doing this. Fuck these people. I don't care. This is on them. The husband and the wife weren't even good anyway. The husband was beating the shit out of the wife. I'm not doing this. I have my daughter, and I'm not doing this. And so I called him. I was like, I want to back out of the deal. I'm not a snitch anyway. I don't know what I was thinking. And they're like, oh, well, we actually have a dirty UA, so you're either going to do it or we're going to issue a warrant out for your arrest. And I'm like, come again? So then I had a warrant out for my arrest for felony internal possession of THC. So this whole thing that I was running away from that I couldn't get back to turn myself in was all around marijuana. And so, like I said, fuck the system. Because nowadays, you would never even imagine having to go through that here in California. I don't even think they do anything like that. I don't even know if that was legal. I mean, that was Humboldt County, Nevada, and fuck Humboldt County because I can come at you with a lot of shady shit. There's a lot going on there. I can just unpack for hours on the people, the cops that are molesters and drug addicts themselves, and yeah. So,
really quick.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we take a quick intermission?
I don't mind.
Okay, dope. Yeah, it's always difficult, when someone wants to talk, it's go time, do your thing, talk, but on a time limit.
Oh my gosh,
especially since yeah. I said let's go 5-10 more minutes, but it's it's also the conciseness of it,
yes.
How do we even approach this situation? Because off the entire story you just told me, I have 80 questions, you know what I mean? I want to ask you about
Yeah, ask me
the
anything.
Lexus car chase, but I feel like
Yeah.
that's
A whole
almost
other
too
thing.
much, you know, and like the time you spend in jail and like the part of you in the bath slitting your wrist and shit.
Yeah.
I'll just try and ask a generic question.
Yeah.
Is it easy getting off like meth? Would you ever say you were addicted to meth?
No, I would never say I was addicted to meth. Yeah, what people like stay on it for is the rush, I would say, but I just did not like. I mean, I enjoyed the way it felt and stuff at the time, but looking back, I was never like I need it. You know, what was hard to get off of was benzos, like Xanax.
Because that shit makes you just forget everything.
Yeah, but the withdrawals, like I was on Klonopin for quite a while, and when I came here, when I got out of jail, by the way, I dodged the probation once I did my time and everything, or once I had served, you know, for the probation they were recommending 15 to 25 years, and usually
in prison.
Mm-hmm. And usually the judge goes with what probation recommends, but by the grace of God, which I had a whole epiphany like in the administrative segregation, that's where I like found God or whatever you want to call it. I don't not find God, but that's where I found I had like a full on like awakening in that space of being alone, isolated by yourself for 19 days with nothing, no book, no whatever, you know. Anyway, so I was like, I'm going to prison. I might as well just, I don't know. It just happened. So then I ended up, they were like, yeah, the judge was like, I see something in you and you don't belong in prison. I'm not going to have you go to prison. Like I'm actually going to write him a thank you letter, but he saw something in me and was like, no. And I got out of going to prison and just lumped in with, sadly, people that shouldn't even be there. But he was like, I'm only letting you out if someone comes and gets you and takes you to California. It's pretty much he pawned me off to California. And wait, where was I going with this before?
I was like, is it easy getting off meth?
Oh yeah, so I was on Klonopin, yeah. But
okay.
I shook after I got here and I was getting off Klonopin and Ativan. I was shaky for a year. I had to get on medication because I couldn't even like hold a pen for a year. I was in rehab and everything, but it just was, that was the fucking hardest, and the psychological effects of it coming off of it. Ugh. Heroin's really gnarly too, but luckily I didn't.
You never? How many times did you do heroin?
I did heroin a lot, but I never shot it.
Over 40 times?
Oh yeah.
100?
Yeah.
200? 1,000?
I probably did maybe 200 times, but it
so you had it in your blood. Did you ever feel like you were addicted to heroin?
No, never did. I just like don't have. It's so weird because I never did drugs really for the feeling of like and withdraw. I did it to get out of thinking, out of pain, and I always hated doing it, and it was just always there, and it was just a quick euphoria, and then it was like, and then I wanted to do it again, but it was like, oh, the people, I was always different than a lot of the drug addicts that you would meet, and no shame on them because drugs are gnarly, but like, it was easy for me to quit smoking. I'm not a big drinker. I don't know. I love the way I feel when I'm clear-headed. I think I just had so much trauma that I just didn't want to think about it, which, I mean, that's what drugs do. But I am really good at at using trauma and pain to lift me into something that like elevate me into the next. I use it as a stepping stone. For a while I spiraled down, but then I learned how to, so I thrive on feeling, and I think we should all focus more on feeling and letting these emotions pass through us and let the pain cultivate a stepping stone that, you know, can move you upward.
It was just crazy. I mean, I feel like I say this almost every day, but like, I'm not even gonna say the name of the person who said it because I feel like all I do is fucking not complain and not necessarily talk about, but just like, I don't want to say their name too frequently.
Yeah.
But like, famous person, everyone knows them. Everyone, I mean, not everyone, but like, people look up to them. But there's like this in their, there's like this video of them talking like, oh, like, if, this is just like some drug related stuff, but like, oh, like if you get caught with a piece of crack bigger than a quarter, you automatically go to jail for 5 years, prison for 5 years, no lawyer, no this, no this, no this. It's just like, are you even understanding what you're saying right now?
Who said that? No lawyer.
This isn't a, I'll cut this part out, but this is a video, not when he was president, but Joe Biden said this.
Oh, yes.
He's like, if you get caught with a piece of crack, and he pulls out a quarter out of his pocket. Yeah. He's looking at all these people. It's just this thing he passed in his team, and he's so proud, and everyone's cheering and stuff.
And then
his
son is like doing all that.
And honestly, fuck the son part. I'm just saying, for the people trying to survive. Yeah. And
their addiction
and just their addiction, or just, hey, I can't get a job because I've already been through the system, and the shit's tainted on my record and shit. So I have no other way to make money for my family, so I have to sell crack. But you get caught with a piece that big,
or you get a bad case of the fuck it's because it's hard. The system's against you, so you're like, fuck it, I'll just
You shouldn't be punished for 5 years, and this is literally exactly why. Like, one of my ultimate goals one day is, if everything, perfect worlds, I'm sure you have dreams, everybody has dreams, I have dreams. One of my dreams is one day to be in office and fix some of these laws. So like one day, like let's say this platform takes off one day, and like hella people are about it and have money and resources and shit. I'm for sure going to be running for some sort of like thing in office or like president, because I literally want to talk to massive amounts of people and like say like, hey, this isn't okay. If you're caught up with drugs, let's not punish you. Like, you can't, like...
You need to get people on here that have experienced it and call out the system so it brings more awareness to it. Like, talk to people that have experienced, that have, like, it was a hell of a time for me to get my life together, jumping through these hoops and, having this warrant out for marijuana and fighting the system to get this felony off of my record for fucking weed. Like, I was going to go to prison for 15 to 25 years. Like, get people like that on here to talk about it and, how it's kind of ruined their lives. It's in my opinion. But, yeah, we need reform. We need change. I feel like it's somewhat starting to happen, but...
Not quick enough. We want shit to happen overnight, especially in this subject.
But, they don't want to... If that were to happen, if it were to change overnight, the prisons would be empty, and then what's going to fuel that system, what's going to feed it? It's all about money. That's what it comes down to. Like, I don't remember the numbers exactly, but one inmate costs like $100,000 a year to house. It is a full fucking system, and not only that, but Big Pharma's involved too, because they give these medications. Like, I can't even tell you how many medications I was pretty much forced to be put on when I was in jail. I was literally a guinea pig for psychiatric medication. That's what they do. They put you in jail, and you're like, yeah, give me the medication. I don't want to fucking be here. Like, anything to knock me out. And they're like, oh, let's try this. Let's try this. Oh, her mood's off. Let's try this. Let's try this. And then before you know it, your chemistry is so fucked up that you get out and you don't even, like, know who you are anymore. And you're just right back at it. It's really bad.
One of my last questions for you. You said you're going downtown SLO tonight. Are you going, like, group of friends? Like, is there, like, a set game plan?
Not really. I'm gonna meet a friend at Giuseppe's and might meet my sister over there. So I don't know, but yeah. Next time, if we do a podcast again, we'll talk about like where I'm at now, like as far as, because I do like all this. Now I'm into like spiritual work and energy work and how I like manifested my business and where I'm. Because it's not all bad. Now, like, I do a lot of really good things for my community, and yeah, I'll get through that at some point. But yeah, I'm gonna go downtown and meet with my sister, and I don't know, I don't really go downtown very often, so I don't really know everything that there is to do, but I'm hoping that we run into some live music.
Okay.
That'd be nice.
I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Always a pleasure. Yeah, if Giuseppe's is closed or something, I don't know when they close.
But, yeah, it's already like 10 something. But yeah,
maybe
we'll
you guys can hit like the Mark. I don't know if you've ever been to the Mark, but they have like a big patio out back.
Okay.
But yeah, that's my recommendation. Other than that, yeah, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you being a guest.
Thanks,
honestly,
Laser.
thank you for popping by. It's been a